let you leverage yourself in whatever capacity you're good at, while I help you make sure that you still have that customer delight and delivery taken care of.
Welcome to the Fractional Edge podcast, the ultimate podcast where we unlock the power of workforce planning and discuss the rapidly growing fractional executive staffing strategies to supercharge your business.
Meet your hosts, Carol Fraser, a workforce planning expert, fractional chief human resources officer, and founder of C4 Talent.
And Jason Huett, the sensei of marketing, fractional chief marketing officer, and founder of Fifth Degree Marketing.
We'll bring you insights from seasoned pros, inspiring success stories, and actionable strategies to optimize your valued workforce.
Don't miss this chance to upgrade your business with top industry leaders in today's competitive landscape. So tune in and learn how to unleash your competitive edge. When I think about what you've been talking about and how it aligns with workforce planning, there's three major areas within workforce planning. It's the inputs, it's the career experience, and then it's the outputs. What I'm hearing is on the input side of it, it's maybe some components of it's the weaving in of customer success into the strategy and into the plans. But it's also the input that sometimes people don't think when they think workforce planning, because too many people think workforce planning is an internal exercise. But one of the major inputs is external stakeholders. And if your customers are an external stakeholder, but so often they don't understand, many CEOs don't understand how to capture that kind of information, so that you can better organize what is the strategy and the plans and the timelines, and then be able to identify what you need from a human capital perspective into that career experience. How many people does it take to screw in a light bulb? And what skills and attributes and competencies and responsibilities do those people need to have? And if you want an organization that really does value and put that customer first, so often we hear this people first kind of idea. We think employee first or customer first, all of those, but so often they don't really understand how to weave it into the bigger picture of workforce planning. So when you think about that kind of overview, when should a CEO bring you in? Is it, it could be at multiple times, but when should the CEO pick up the phone and go, I need your help in these three areas along the life cycle?
I think you have to start at the beginning. Like once you have customers, or right before you're ready to transition to where sales is really focused on selling as opposed to working with early customers. I think you need to start there and figure out what is needed from a client perspective, right? What kind of skills do you need? Who are your customers going to be? And what does that translate into? A lot of companies start with the smaller size SMB mid-market, and then they move upscale to the large enterprise, right? And if you speak to your clients and understand what your clients are looking for, it is going to give you a sense of what is needed and what kind of trajectory you can have for your team, right? You have to understand that piece. And when you come in, the customer success person can start out and say, or what I can do is come in and say, here's what you need right now. Here are the skill sets that you need. And where might you be going and how do you get there? And I that's why I think that at the very start of the kind of the growing stage, you've got the customers you're growing, you need to get a perspective on what the customers may be looking for and how that filters into who you hire and what you hire. It also could be around like technical capabilities. How technical is your product and what are you expecting? Do you have the CSM be technical? Do you have the CSM? Do you have a technical CSM that's separate from the regular CSM? Do you have a technical, sales engineer? What do you have? And I think you have to know your product, but you also have to know what your customers' capabilities are, right? if you're a very technical product, and the people that are using it day to day, are they the ones that are going to help you with the setup? Like there's kind of a whole understanding of the early stages of launching the product, like onboarding, and the day to day, and what do you need at each stage. And I don't think you're going to get that if you're not going to get it right, or you're not going to be prepared to take risks and try and then adjust if you don't think about it early on. Until you've gotten to kind of a steady stage, there's always going to be a room for having somebody come in to help with the strategy of what does the customer need? How is that reflected in your team? What does that mean for opportunities within the team or outside the team? Your customer success person, do you want to stay? Do you want to go up through the management? Do you want to be an individual contributor? Is there room for the individual contributor? Is there something or a need for the individual contributor? And I don't think you know that until you start growing. And so bringing somebody back in and working, maybe not in a fractional capacity, but maybe as an advisor, to say, I've seen how this goes. Here are some options.
Laurie, I'm curious to understand a little bit about what do you look for in terms of metrics? Are there metrics, OKRs or KPIs that you tend to look at with new clients, and probably more specifically talking about the SMB market? Enterprise has access to a whole nother set of tools, but yeah, what types of metrics are you most excited or interested in?
So I think the high level metric that I'm always looking at is gross revenue retention. And I am explicit about that because it's not net revenue retention. And with the understanding that customer success doesn't have any revenue associated with it. So if you think of gross revenue retention as how quickly is how leaky is the bucket, right? It's only about what's changing within your current customers, revenue expansions, loss. So that high level is what I'm always focused on. And it's similar to churn, revenue churn. From there, it all depends on the company. Like, what are you selling? So for a company like payroll, usage within the product it's not really helpful as an indicator or a metric. It gets you a sense of what they're not touching, but as you would expect, being somebody who gets paid, like you're not going to turn off or you're not going to stop using payroll software until you're already ready to go to the next one. So in that case, it would be things like support calls, resolution of support calls, engagements. How engaged is the client? How often are they? How engaged are they? Are they having meetings with you on a regular basis? Are they responsive to you? The responsive is hard because it's hard to measure, but the engagements, the business reviews, the types of contracts you're having. I would say NPS and CSAT, except for the fact that CSAT is, it's very much based on that one. Is like if you're doing it after a support call, it's that one interaction, right, with that one person, and it's not necessarily across the board. And you can have a great interaction or a bad interaction. It's not really indicative of the whole relationship. And NPS, you have to make sure that. NPS, you have to make sure that you're asking the right person, right? If you're asking a user who loves the software, but the decision maker who can't stand it, you're going to have different scores. So I think any kind of score like that, customer experience, you have to make sure you're targeting individual people. For companies that are offering software that are not like you have to use them, usage is a big one. Usage, and then often, the frequency, but also the time and the depth of different products different aspects of the product that you're using. That gives you both a sense of health, but also opportunities for engagement. You could also do things like participation of webinars, participation of panels, if you have a customer advisory board, input like that. But you have to look at it both from do you respond and do you show up? And somebody who responds is engaged, but not as engaged as somebody who shows up. So it's basically all those things kind of filter into revenue retention, right? If you're not engaged, if you're not, having meetings, if you're either not having support tickets at all, you're probably not using the software, or you're having way too many, right? It's a sign that you're not that healthy. And so you're likely to churn, and your revenue the revenue retention is going to go down. I should say the marketing piece, I mean, Jason, you talked about lead gen and everything. There's a whole marketing to the customers, right? And getting the metrics around those communications, right, is another input to how healthy that customer is. But you actually have to do it, and it's got to be consistent, and you got to have enough data, and it's got to be engaging to really use it as a metric. You do an email campaign once, and that's it. Or you send out a newsletter, you don't put a lot of effort into it. Okay, people aren't going to open it. Does that mean that they're not healthy? So I think these metrics are all tied. The question is, how many are you actually how many are you taking advantage of? I guess is one way, what I would say.
And many times in my experiences working with my clients, I find that they don't put enough emphasis on customer success early enough. Yeah. And then they're behind the 8 ball, and they're running like chickens with their heads cut off, strategizing, ideating, doing tactics to try to keep the revenue. And I know a lot of times they do have the weekly, the monthly meetings, but I think one of the things that you've been talking about is, are we asking the right questions? Are we creating the right environment and culture and experience for the customer to feel as if they've got a true platform and some level of openness for them to have deeper, more in-depth conversations to get a better sense of what is the potential retention of this client? Is that a fair statement?
Yeah. It goes back to what does the customer deem of value? And if you're having, a monthly meeting, but you're not delivering any value, what's the purpose of being on that call? Right?
Yeah. Billability, utilization, exactly. It's not exactly,
you can
it's an internal checkbox exercise.
Well, and that's what I said to somebody who wanted to be promoted. I said, you're just checking off the boxes, right? Oh, I have my regular meetings, check. Like, it's not just about the doing, it's the impact of it.
Yeah. What are some of the myths that you'd like to dispel about customer success? Are there any myths that you can think of that come to mind that you'd like to dispel?
It's a cost center. That it is the catch-all with the client. So if the client, has a problem, if there's an internal issue, they'll take care of it. Customer success will take care of it. If there's bad news to be sent, customer success will take care of it. If the customer needs a project manager, customer success will take care of it.
Oh my God, it's singing to my HR heart here. Because that, from an employee standpoint, if you need somebody disciplined, go to HR. If you need to fire somebody, go to HR. No. Keep going, Laurie. I completely agree.
Yeah.
Bad dispelling. Yes, we must dispel those myths.
And I think the idea that you can just take an account manager and throw them into a customer success without giving some training or setting clear roles and responsibilities and expectations. I'm not so sure if that's a myth or just it's a practice that people seem to say, well, I came from this and now I know how to do it. There's a gift to of gab that I think salespeople have, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the same kind of conversation that you need to have with customer success. And I think one of the other things that worries me is this idea that the customer success person can do anything. Oh, well, we can just tell them to have a quota, they'll sell, right? And if you're a relationship person that really wants to do what's right for the customer and what's right for the customer, maybe don't buy this. It's a conflict where the CSM has a quota and has to meet it. Go back to the Zappos experience. I don't know if you guys have ever had this, where you called in and you said, I have a problem. And you asked, or you're like, I'm looking for something. And Zappos customer support would go to extreme levels of trying to solve the problem for you. And if it didn't make sense for you to buy it at this one place, but somewhere else, I'd say, don't buy it. We don't want you to spend with us because we want to make a deal. It's the same thing, right? You gotta, I think customer success really needs to be a consultant. I understand that it requires more headcount, but you're clear roles and responsibilities, right? Clear requirements. Ask somebody to do what they're good at doing. Don't ask them to do multiple things. I understand. I'm talking from a startup.
Kind of like how I always say, quit trying to Frankenstein together a bunch of different pieces into a role and bringing on, trying to find that you put it together like Frankenstein, but you think you're going to find a unicorn.
Yeah.
So, don't Frankenstein it together, and instead consider bringing in fractional executives to fill those needs and to drive the impact and that value, instead of trying to just be that catch-all role within, call it, the sales, customer service, customer support, everything all at once, right? That's,
Absolutely.
When you think about that kind of concept, what are some of the lessons that you've learned with your past experiences that we could be telling our audience, here's kind of just a good lesson to learn is X?
So I think in the past, or maybe even still now, earlier stage companies either had to hire somebody, senior person full time, or they didn't, right? It was black or white. And you still may need that expertise of that level. And now with fractionals, you can have that. So you can have somebody who is a little more junior, or maybe very junior, that is good with customers, and you can train them a little bit on some of the skills that you need to have very early on, just basic skills. And to have somebody come in with their expertise, and you get what you need. It's not it's not you either pay in full or you get nothing. It's you pay for what you need. And so I think for earlier stage companies, it's very they're very focused on keeping their costs down and bringing in the cheapest asset they can find, and doing what they need to do to get by. And I think what I've learned is you could have somebody come in and do the infrastructure and help out and oversee somebody who's more junior without having to be there full time. And then you get the best of both worlds. Because customer success is still in its infancy. I mean, it's been around for 20 years, but it's still in its infancy. And a founder is probably either really good at tech or I'm talking about from a tech standpoint, really good at the technology or really good at sales. Customer success is a different beast. And let me let you leverage yourself in whatever capacity you're good at, while I help you make sure that you still have that customer delight and delivery taken care of.
Yeah, it makes an awful lot of financial sense to be able to tap into the experience of someone like yourself, bring you in for the exact amount of time that they think and they can budget for, but get the benefit of all those years of experience. And obviously, Carol and I believe in fractional, but it's a huge benefit.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Laurie, what is the one question you wished we would have asked so that you can talk about something that's, burning in your gut? You want our audience to know.
So off topic, but I would have loved if you had asked me what my favorite job was.
Okay.
And is I am a rider for the Mini Mountaineers ski group every winter. I love to ski. And my kids are in a race program, and their friends are in race programs. So a lot of my friends are off skiing, taking their kids to race programs. So I don't always have someone to ski with. And during COVID, I got a call saying, I have the perfect job for you. We need an employee to ride up the chairlift with 4 to 6 year olds who can't get on the chairlift. And so and they're like, you can ride up and then you get to ski down and do whatever you want. Wow. In true form, I ended up entertaining the kids in the lift lines, dancing. They liked my poles. They would lie down. You'd have to pick them up. And I would bond with, a bunch of these kids, and it made it fun. So I got to stand in line and have fun and be wild and be crazy, and then go up, and then they'd say, well, will you ski with us? And I'm like, yeah, no, you're too slow. And then I'd ski down. It was, and then I had done it for a while, that the guys in charge would be like, well, you want to take a group? I'm like, okay. So every once in a while I would take groups, and it was fun because they knew me and they wouldn't try to get away with things because I was Laurie. The funny thing was, last year, my daughter was an instructor, and the kids got a huge kick out of the fact that a mother and daughter were working together. So it's like the best job ever, because you really get to see those smiles, and then you get to have your own smiles by skiing down.
That was a part of their customer success for the 4 to 6 year old age group, right?
Absolutely. I delivered. I gave them the value that they wanted.
Yep.
I love it.
And most of it was the poles. Oh, I want your poles. I had to let go of the poles because I couldn't pick up 2 kids and keep the poles. And there were a lot of small kids this year. Yeah.
And Laurie, if people want to, CEOs or business owners want to get a hold of you and talk more about what you can bring to their team, how do they find you?
So I am still building my presence on the web. So I would go to LinkedIn and look for Laurie Barlev. My URL is literally Laurie Barlev, no space, and you'll find me.
Awesome.
Fantastic. So I want to thank you so much for joining us today on the Fractional Edge, bringing us a whole new understanding of customer success, how it fits into the broader picture. And if any of our listeners are really trying to create a customer-centric philosophy or environment, how pivotal it is that you've got the right programs and processes in place to ensure that you're retaining those clients. So I really want to thank you for being a part of this. You are our first customer success. So this is a really great way to kind of round it out. And for our listeners, don't forget to subscribe and share our content, and stay tuned for our future podcasts around the entire world of fractional executives and how adding that component to your workforce planning is going to give your company the competitive edge. We'll see you soon.
Thank you for tuning in to the Fractional Edge. We hope you enjoyed our insightful discussions and feel inspired to unleash your competitive edge.
Remember to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated with the latest episodes. You can also connect with our podcast guests to benefit from their expertise and explore collaboration opportunities by visiting our website, thefractionaledge.com. Join us next time as we continue to explore the power of workforce planning and fractional executives in today's competitive business landscape. Until then, take care and keep growing.